Press the first button.
Okay.
Charlie'd it. I didn't. I just assumed that the old setup would still work out of the box. And
Fingers crossed.
should be good now. Oh, I didn't even have to press a second button. It was just
Oh,
already live. The Charlie
that's
slander
disturbing.
made it to live.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Would you like to do the intro while I do a shot?
Oh, yeah, okay. If I'm going to facilitate liquor, then yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Star Wars podcast, Tapcaf Transmissions. We are discussing the newest Star Wars game, Star Wars Outlaws, today. My name is Justin, YouTuber Eckhart's Ladder. YouTuber is my middle name. Joined by my friend Corey, YouTuber Loses.
That is my actual legal last name. So if people want to look me up, look for Loses. That's my slogan. Look for Loses.
Yeah. Look for Loses, yeah. That
Crazy
explains
your parents
the...
had that foresight, though.
Yeah, they were cool like that. But yeah, how are you doing, Corey? How's it been?
I've been good. This weekend, I went and visited some friends in Toronto. You weren't there, so that some people apparently had more important things to do. But other than that, I'm good. How about you?
I was in the wonderful Prince Edward Island, the Emerald Isle, but not the Emerald Isle, the other one. Yeah, it was fun. I feel like just reading the group chat, I feel like you guys needed a strong hand guiding you, and I feel like I was missed.
Hilton was there.
I know.
So, and besides, that would have taken away from your valuable time with your Twitter feed.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, I think it had mostly calmed down by then.
No? I guess by the night before we got there.
Yeah, because I didn't really use my phone much in PI. Like I didn't charge it the first night and it was still good, which is like I've got an iPhone 15. Like that shit dies so quickly if I'm using it. But it's pretty good if I'm not. So yeah, I kind of unplugged. It was nice, not totally, but because my family goes to bed so early. Like even when we're on vacation, Kelsey's asleep by like 9 o'clock, and I'm just not wired that way. So like, yeah, I had a campfire one night, and I was probably tweeting some stuff out then. No, I don't think anything crazy, but
well, you were missed on all of our adventuring and drinking around Toronto. Maybe next time you'll be present. But especially if the next trip is in Halifax.
Yeah.
But we have Star Wars Outlaws to talk about. I guess there has been one big piece of Star Wars news since we last conglomerated. I can see the smirk under the... The man can't fucking help himself.
I can't. I feel bad, but I can't help myself.
So, The Acolyte was not picked up for a second season. This has been a big source of discussion for a while now, but how much are we going to talk about this?
Let's talk about it. I'll be clear. My smirk is not over the Acolyte being canceled because I know that there's a lot of people who are very upset. And that sucks. Like I've had shows that I liked canceled. And like if Ahsoka were canceled tomorrow, I'd be quite upset. But the timing of it was very, very funny.
Yeah, it was the day after.
It was like literally the funniest it was the funniest Twitter experience I've had in my entire life. Which is for me as someone who looks trouble. Yeah.
Like I'm a bit disappointed. I'm not surprised though. Like I would have liked to see what happens with a potential second season of the show, especially if they drop the attempt at Rashomoning, because I feel like that was what held the show back the most for me, was that they weren't very effectively playing with the whole perspective thing, and I feel like that was what held back May and Osha's character the most. I think everything with Chimera and Soul was already good, and if we had May and Osha in more of that environment where they're not doing the whole you don't know what's coming, even though it was kind of obvious what had gone on the whole time, I think that there was a lot more room for it to go, but like viewership was low, and I think the bigger factor is that like I'd be shocked if any show that started now was going to get a second season other than Ahsoka, because it is so directly tied to what Dave Filoni's been doing for a decade now.
Yeah, like for me, like there's multiple. So basically, for those, I'm kind of dancing around the issue. I put a tweet out saying that that they should cancel the show, and not saying that as someone who hates the show, because I didn't hate it. That's like one thing I want to make clear. I didn't hate the show.
We had like multiple episodes of reviews on that, and I don't think either of us were that negative on it, even if it wasn't like
I didn't like it very much. I certainly didn't love it, but to me, like the writing was kind of on the wall because it's the same with like video game launches where you really get one chance to grab people, and nowadays it's pretty hard, I think, to pick up audience like halfway along or like for a second season. Maybe they would have. I don't know. I could be wrong here. I think we're gonna have to see how Ahsoka does with its second season. But for me, the story wasn't working. I also liked the Chimera stuff quite a bit. I liked some of the characters as well. I wanted to see more about Vernestra as well. That to me is like the big loss there. But it just wasn't working, and I thought the structure of the show just wasn't really. I just didn't think a season 2 would have been much better. And so basically, I tweeted that out. I think there was a lot of reactions. There was quite a bit that agreed, and quite a bit that disagreed. And my main thing is like I don't really want to see Star Wars projects become like oversaturated and skippable. And like I find it kind of concerning that there's been like several live action projects which people are just kind of completely tuned out on. And I think if you continue to release things that people don't tune in for, then like you lose your ability to really hype up a show, get a lot of budget, and make something really cool. So that's kind of where I was thinking about it.
I feel like the next Avengers movies are kind of going to be the indicator for how effectively you can get people back on board after like you spread out more. Because like I feel like I started skipping a lot of stuff coming out of the Infinity Saga, where like in the first saga with all the Marvel stuff, everything did feel a lot more connected, and it felt like, oh, I can't miss this because I really want to see what happens in the next Avengers movie. But then in the second one, I've just kind of fallen off a lot more, and I am curious to see if like having an Avengers movie come back out will pull people in as like an event, and whether Star Wars would be able to do the same thing. But
yeah, like I feel pretty good based on how well Deadpool did, but I mean that's always been kind of a separate thing from the mainline Marvel stuff anyway. Yeah, no, I agree, and there's gonna be a Star Wars movie releasing at around the same time as that, so kind of scary. But my numbers my analysis was based partially on the Nielsen numbers which released, and it showed that the show, like there were a few things that I found concerning, and of course, like Nielsen numbers, you can't take them as objectively true, like for what they are. But what I find useful is even though the numbers themselves you can't hold out as being completely accurate, you can still see trends within the data set, or even like trends compared to other data sets. And with the Acolyte, I saw audience declining. I saw audience like for Andor, audience started off low, and then it gradually increased as the show continued. I saw a lower audience overall. So that to me was kind of like the thing. Like, yeah, I definitely think they should move on. And then that got a lot of pushback, people questioning the Nielsen numbers, whatever else.
Yeah, I did see a lot of discussion afterwards about like, oh, well, how is anything ever going to get footing if you don't have the ability to do multiple seasons? But I think that's kind of a double-edged sword, especially when it comes to the Acolyte, where like, sure, I think like the way they're approaching Star Wars is that having multiple shows kind of is the multiple seasons there, which does get rid of the opportunity to grow a fan base for a specific show over time. But if you were to take the idea that like any show they greenlight is going to get multiple seasons, then I don't think we would have gotten half of the shows that have already aired would not have happened, because you'd be in the middle of like multi-season Obi-Wan, Book of Boba Fett, etc.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Acolyte would have been high enough up the list of projects that they wanted on their slate that they would have done Acolyte in the first place. So I don't know if that would have really solved the issue that's being argued for there.
Yeah, that argument doesn't really work for me either, because like the whole you need multiple seasons, because that's not how the shows are structured. Like, and if they were more TV like I wanted, then I'd probably be a little more open to that. But when it comes to me personally, like I also make the subjective call that I didn't think the show was very good. And like that's just how it is. Like, like, because one of the big complaints was, oh well, Lucasfilm's going to take the wrong. They're never going to try to make something unique again. And there's multiple ways that I would respond to that, but the show just for me didn't work. So when I say that it should be canceled, I'm not claiming to have some objective view of the art. I think there's kind of objective trends in the data, and then subjectively I'm saying, yeah, it doesn't, you can't make up for that. Like for me, Andor was so good that even if it did have serious viewer problems, I would have wanted to keep it going. The Acolyte didn't do that for me.
Well, I think it's also just my last thing on it, I guess, would be if if Lucasfilm does go back around to focusing on TV again, if that's how things trend in the future, I think Acolyte is one of the shows that suffers the least from having some time off if they decide to pick it up in the future. Because, like, with Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor's going to keep getting older. With Cassian Andor, Diego Luna's going to keep getting older, and he's already dead. Like, Cassian's already dead. Maybe for Obi-Wan that works out better because he starts looking more like Alec Guinness. But for where the stories were left in Acolyte, like going back after 5 years and seeing Kymir and Osha training together, having May been with the Jedi for a little while, or been with Vernestra for a little while, I don't think that makes it any worse for them than going in immediately in a season 2 would. So I think like there's an outside shot that if interest does pick up over time, that it could come back. And I think it's the show that works best with out of all the other Star Wars shows. So it's
I agree.
Not impossible.
Yeah, and it sucks that fans are being fans, and like that's why I do hate to. Well, I don't hate. Obviously, I don't hate it, but when you put out a tweet, Acolyte fans are very passionate. Good for them. When you put out that tweet, I got a lot of abuse. None actually like serious, like when like occasionally happens. But when it was canceled, like literally the next day, I did think that was extremely funny. But I do, I should be careful because, for one, as I mentioned, a lot of people do like the show. And for two, there was a lot of bullshit being thrown at the cast and continues to be thrown at the cast. So
yeah, like Amanda just did an interview, and like you get all the same fucking comments about, well, she shouldn't have attacked the fans. It's like, okay, well, they're always talking about that diss track thing, which came after fucking libs of TikTok or whatever it was were trying to push that Daily Show interview where she was talking about the hate you give, and they were trying to like imply that was an interview that she was doing about Star Wars, saying that the Acolyte was made to make white people cry. It's like it's
not
such
libs of TikTok. Who can
yeah,
trust?
like it's such clear bad faith bullshit that so many people decided to believe because they put like less than 3 seconds of thought into it, and then that is kept going on, and it's like every fucking comment section about it is the same fucking bullshit. But
yeah,
anyways.
No, that's 100% true. And it sucks because like a lot of people hate the show for the wrong reasons. I dislike the show for the wrong reason. I hate it for the right reasons. No, I don't hate it. But I dislike it for the right reasons. So
yeah. All right. Well, speaking of other Twitter topics where I immediately close into the comments because they're just fucking mind melting, Star Wars Outlaws. We have had a couple days with the early access version. The game officially releases tomorrow for everyone who either didn't want to subscribe to Ubisoft Plus or didn't want to pay $150 almost Canadian, 144 Canadian. I don't know what the price was in real world money for Americans. But how are you feeling about Outlaws?
I've went back and forth on this like 4 times, more so than than normally. The first 2 hours of the game I played, I really disliked it. Like I had a 2 hour window where I got to try it early, and like an hour and a half in, I was like, no, I'm not interested anymore. I'm really concerned about the game. Then I got the full review version, and the first few nights, because I was going to PEI, so I only had a couple nights before the early access started to get my review out. The first couple of nights, I was like, I really enjoyed it. The first night especially, I was like, I played 4 hours. I texted you guys. I was like, man, I want to play some more. Then I don't know. Right now I've done about 10 or 11 hours, and I don't really feel a whole lot of drive to keep going, which is not ideal.
Yeah, like I've only played about 4 hours so far, because I wasn't involved in any of the early previews. That's fine though.
I tried. I really
know.
tried.
But
Not enough
the
to give you my second review code though. That one
had to go to Zack. But yeah, so I feel like the first 2 hours of the game, like when you're doing the stuff on, we're going to be talking about some spoilers just for everyone. I'm not far enough in to really spoil all that much.
No, me neither.
So just early game, a lot of spoilers, but either way, you're on Kajimi. Yeah, you're on Kajimi for a while, and it just feels like you're in a very extended tutorial for a while. Like I have enjoyed the game. There has been nothing in the game that made me think I hate what I'm doing right now, but also nothing in the game that made me think.
Do you mean Katanika?
Yeah, not Kajimi, sorry. Katanika.
Yeah.
There's been nothing in it that made me think I'm not interested in playing this, or I'm not having at least a bit of fun, but there was nothing in it where I was like, that was amazing. I can't wait to do more of that. Like a lot of reviews have kind of put it around 7, and I think like 6.5, 7 is like
the most 7 game I've ever played in my life, I think. I could see a 6. I could not see an 8, unfortunately. I feel like there are some things the game does really well. Everyone talks about the environments; they're great.
Yeah.
But to me, the gameplay is so shallow that it hurts. Like, and there's a lot to do. Like I feel like it's going to be a very long game. I said I've played probably 12 hours, and how the game works, as far as I understand, this is just like gameplay spoiler. You do the opening set. You do 2 kind of heists early on, and then you prepare for a heist where you've got to collect a certain amount of individuals. It's 3 individuals, and then presumably you do the final heist, and maybe there's more after that. I really don't know. But I'm 12 hours in, or 10, whatever, and I've gotten one. I've done like most but not all of the missions to get 1 character. They've been off doing side events and whatever else. So I definitely see this being a game that takes, 25, 30 hours to complete. And for me, the gameplay is just nowhere near deep enough to make that fun. As fun as it should be, anyway.
Yeah, like I have found myself looking forward to like exploring certain areas, but like the actual gameplay loops, like the gunplay is fine. The piloting I thought was good, like the dog fighting and stuff, until I got the tutorial for like the follow mode where you press, like, at least on a controller, you hold left trigger, and then it basically does everything for you. And I thought that was really disappointing, because like when it's there, you're tempted to just use it, and like you still gotta fly around and not hit stuff. But as far as like aiming goes, it lines you right up, and then it just holds your hand through that. And I thought that was a little disappointing, but
yeah, it is cool, like how you can take on, like there's so many things about this game that feel like just super, super, super half baked. Like I've got 2 really good examples that I think describe this kind of game perfectly. The first I mentioned on Twitter. You can break into a Pike Syndicate base on what's the first planet called again?
Tashara?
Tashara.
Or Kanto?
No, Tashara. You can break into a Pike Syndicate base, and you can, like, just sitting on a table is just a data pad which straight up tells you, hey, the Fathier races are fixed. This is going to be the next winner. And like on its own, that's kind of cool, but like the clunky way that it's done, where like it's not just, oh, you got to break into this, as you're doing the mission. Like, I've compared it to a lacking Deus Ex several times, and I keep coming back to that because in even the newer Deus Ex games, which are worse and less deep, you want to find something, or when you're breaking into a computer, you really look, maybe you find something, you got to put things together, then you get the monetary reward, and that's part of the fun. In this, it's like, yeah, it's sitting on a table, and then you can go and bet on the horses, and that's fine. The other example of like a really half-baked system to me is the Imperial Pursuit, like the GTA Wanted level.
Yeah.
So in space, how it works, it's really cool on the surface where you shoot a tie, the local base will be activated against you. It'll start sending out fighters. It goes all the way up to, it'll send out a Gazanti, then it will send out a Raider Corvette. And the whole thing with the Raider is you've got to try to disrupt the Raider, and then you escape. There's a countdown. It's like you got to escape before the countdown runs out. If you don't, nothing happens. It ends either way. Like, the pursuit ends. It's just like, there could have been something cool like with that. Like, it could have been that, a Star Destroyer jumps in and it is an unbeatable boss and you die. Or, I don't know. Either way, you can go to the planet and escape the pursuit, and it goes away anyway. So it's just like, there's no real continuity of the system there, and it just ends up feeling really shallow. I think there are a few kind of aspects like that are really holding the game down.
Yeah, I think shallow probably is the right word for most of where I felt issues with it. Where like the stealth stuff is fine. For my first stream, it was about 2 hours. I didn't really have an issue with like when I got caught, it made sense. When I was sneaking by people, it made sense. But with when I played the next time, so I was doing the refueling station mission, like the Battlefront shipyard thing where you infiltrate and you're going through a hangar, and it just felt like I was less clear on when and how people would react to stuff than I had been before. And I actually started doing I started using photo mode to cheat around stealth, because you can move the camera around, and you like, because half the time when I was getting caught, it was because I'd go around a corner and there was just a guy that I had no way of knowing would be right there. And then he'd just see me and then I'd be done. So I started using photo mode to look around corners, figure out who was where, and then I'd start like actually walking. And I don't know, it just feels like there's not like a great hook with the stealth elements, just like there's not a great hook with the shooting. Maybe when the blasters upgraded a bit more, like I did enjoy picking up some of the weapons and playing around that, or like trying to snipe out the stormtroopers from behind the shield. That was fun. But like there's all this stuff that has these baseline fun elements, but I think are going to wear through relatively quickly for a game that otherwise feels like there's so much to go to. Like there's something missing in that.
Yeah, it's like, you're right. I totally agree. And the stealth is like the individual. This is kind of one thing where I disagreed with Zack when we were talking about it, where he quite liked the AI. And to me, like the AI in your zone is okay, but like it's so clearly segmented. So like on the Imperial, in the ship, or in the space station, if they set off the alarm, it's an instant lose state. Up until the very end, anyway. But it's like, you can make an entire commotion in this one room. Like, as long as they don't touch the alarm, you're fine. Then you go into the next room and you get like, it's just a reset every single time. And it's just not very interesting. Like there could be a guy on the other side of a doorway with the door open. You could be, shooting grenades at someone, and he won't hear until you cross that threshold. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah, like with the hangar thing I was doing, it's like you can have 3 people in a group, and then I sent Nyx out, lured one of them over, and then as soon as they were out of their immediate vicinity, stunned the one guy, and no one else gives a fuck. Like they don't react to that at all. I don't really have to worry about them like walking over and finding the body. I'm not even sure if like seeing the bodies of their comrades will make them wonder about anything.
They won't set the alarm off, but they'll go into like searching mode. which is like the exact same. Like that's my fucking problem. It's the exact same as stealth games have been for 20 years. Like this is a 20-year-old stealth system, basically.
Yeah,
Like you could do this in Splinter Cell, Chaos Rising, and better, or Double Agent, or the original Splinter Cell.
like that would be more fine to me if it wasn't like the core gameplay loop, where it almost feels like it doesn't know if it wants to do the shooter route or the stealth route. So like if one of them was really deep, like was like the core draw for the game and handled that in a more creative way or in a more in-depth way, then the other one being the way it is would be like better because it's not the primary focus. But you have both of these systems that feel kind of tired or like not super well developed, and then that together makes it like not a bad game, but like nothing that I'm going to tell someone like, oh, you really should give that a try, where and now it's just like, oh, you're not that interested from seeing it. There's nothing in here that's going to make me say, oh, you really need to experience this differently.
Yeah. To me, like a really good game that they should have looked to. I don't know if you've tried it. You don't have a PlayStation, maybe not.
No.
Is The Last of Us, where like that game is all about, uh, you can go stealthy, and it's the mechanics for stealth are fairly deep, where it's a lot of the AI searching in your last location. One thing that game does is you can actually see like a ghost of where they last saw you. There's lots of things you can do to make noise. It's big on the environment, like things on the floor, improvised weapons and stuff like that. And then if you do, it is totally valid to go in guns blazing. If you do, the combat is like very scampering, survival like, popping out of cover for 1 second, grabbing hostages. It's very like brutal, quick, and I think that would have been a much more interesting kind of approach for this game. Either they go that way, or again the Deus Ex method, where you did get a little bit of that, where you've got to get to, say, a certain room inside a casino. You can either take the elevator, which requires stealing a key card, or you can go through the vents.
Yeah.
That's fine, but like those are pretty basic traversal options. Like if you had the whole game kind of structured around that and you added more, that would be interesting, but they don't go nearly far enough.
Yeah, it did feel a lot like I thought earlier on I would have more choice or more agency in like when I wanted to do stealth versus when I wanted to start shooting everything. But it feels like when they want to force you to do stealth, they are like, no, the alarm's gonna go off and then you're cooked. Sorry, bud. Like they're gonna immediately get there, and so there are more cases where you are just shoved into doing stealth or shoved into doing blast your way out. So it could be, again, the end of a long stealth section, and then it's like, oh, no, we scripted it so that when you open this door, they notice you can't do anything, enjoy.
Yeah.
So it just, I would like more agency in that, especially with like the bases, where I understand why having you go through and just murder everyone in the base might not be great for the world building they're doing, but it just felt like I was being told when each action was valid, and that wasn't as great for the semi-open world feeling.
Yeah, that was frustrating. Like on the second mission, where you're breaking into, I think that's anyway, whatever. You're breaking into some base, and I got through the entire first section. I think you're breaking into a pike base.
Yeah,
I got through
the
entire first section. Nobody saw me at all. Didn't take anybody out. Completely silent. And then you go up the elevator, and it's like you've got to fight, and you get no bonus for. Like I thought, okay, maybe if I don't kill anybody, then I won't get the negative reputation with the pikes because they just would have seen something be stolen. They don't know it's me, but at the end of the day, you're getting fucked either way.
Yeah. Yeah, like they do have as far as stealth goes, they do have like the sound elements, but I felt like the indications for when you're making sound aren't the most readable, and you do have like the Nyx show stuff through walls, but like the easiest way to get that information is still photo mode, because then you can actually see how they're moving, where they're facing, what they're doing. Like it's just like playing third-person shooters versus first-person shooters. Like if they have a mode like that in Battlefront, you're at a disadvantage if you're doing first-person, but
Mhm.
to the
Yep.
nth degree. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
cool.
I don't know. I wish there was more. There's lots to upgrade, which is fun.
Yeah,
You can upgrade your ship, you can upgrade your gun, your skills. I like the kind of mentor mode where you upgrade things that way.
hmm
But that's a lot for some people. That's kind of a pretty typical Ubisoft experience. There's also like a lot you can do outside of the main story. Like
yeah.
everywhere you go, there's intel. There's like intel side quests. I forget what they call it. Contracts. There's a lot if you really enjoy the game, want to keep yourself busy.
Yeah, like the extra exploration stuff and the world around you and everything that you can get to there. I found that better and more appealing than the idea of exploring more on like the Jedi Survivor hub planet. So I
Mhm.
think like the environment's cool, the driving around on your speeder, I think that's cool. Like there's a lot of every individual part of the game feels fine. There's some stuff that feels good, but there's nothing that feels like this is great. And that's kind of just where I am overall with it.
Yeah, like when I'm playing Red Dead Redemption in the open world, I feel like or Red Dead Redemption 2 rather than the open world. I have the feeling that anything can happen.
Mhm.
Like that I could encounter a situation which truly surprises me or that I can handle in a really unique way. I know that like there's some complaints about the game um with how linear the missions are, but whatever. You really feel like you can encounter anything in the open world. But when you play Star Wars Outlaws, I get a really clear feeling of like there's serious limits to like what they've allowed me to do in this game.
Mhm.
It's going to be pretty, the missions for example, well there are a lot of intel missions or whatever else. A lot of them go to place A and drop something off or go to place B and pick something off like literal fetch quests or break into this place and yeah, it feels quite restrictive.
I am kind of looking forward to seeing whether and how much the reputation, like which sides you choose to have good or bad relationships, impact anything story wise, or if it's not really going to play into that much. Like, I'm basically just going to stick with Crimson Dawn as much as I can and not help the Pikes as much as I
I feel
can and
like
see if that
Crimson
does
Dawn
anything.
is
But
like I feel like everyone's going with them. Yeah.
yeah, I think I saw a bunch of talk about how like no one sides with the Pikes,
Mhm.
and I mean Crimson Dawn is just the coolest. So
Yeah, there. Although I know there's a fourth one too that I haven't encountered yet.
yeah, the is it a Rhodian clan?
I don't know. I like that weird, like the armor. So I'm not sure.
Okay. I thought it was the one of the ones that was from like the old RPG stuff, but I haven't seen them yet either, so I don't know. I kind of wonder if there might be more added in the story DLC because we do have two story
Hmm.
DLCs being released, it's like story mission
Yeah,
things with
yeah,
Hondo and Lando.
yeah.
So that should be interesting too. I'm hopefully gonna have the main quest beat by then, and I might have to actually buy the game. I did go with the Ubisoft
It is
uh
the smartest, I think.
to like buy the actual game.
No, to do the Ubisoft thing.
Well, depending on how much more stuff comes out, because like 3 months in, then I will have paid the
Yeah, it
price of the
depends.
regular game.
That's true.
I guess if I downgrade to
Um,
standard, but yeah,
yeah, it kind of depends also like whether you might play anything else in their library.
yeah,
Like if you can, if I were going to do it the most cost effective way, and like I think this is totally the game that's not a must play. I would probably wait until all the DLC comes out and then do it all in 1 month. And like you got $19 or whatever. Sorry.
yeah. Like I typically prefer owning it just in case I want to go back to it later. But I also don't know
Yeah.
that this is a game that I'm going to be like feeling the need to super heavily revisit to replay like the main story or something, or to like be completionist in. Because I like going back and replaying Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor sometimes because like the boss fights there, like
Hmm.
wondering if I'd be able to do them better, kind of just sits in the back of my mind and draws me in.
Yeah.
But I haven't found that thing yet in Outlaws, and I don't know if it exists.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I will say, like, um, I think that video games under the new management video games have generally been really good. Like,
Yeah.
on average, they've been of higher quality on average than before. I think the best of the best um, were better under previous management. Like, there's been no Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order. Well, I say Star Wars Squadron to be the exception because that's maybe my favorite Star Wars game of all time.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people are complaining about this, but like there have been a lot of really good games. I didn't like the first Battlefront game, but Battlefront 2 was pretty good. Star Wars Squadrons was great. Jedi Survivor, Fallen Order, both great games. Um, you know, if you think back to like what we were getting in the like if you compare this with the Force Unleashed 2, for example, like this is clearly better.
Yeah, like I don't think Force Unleashed or Force Unleashed 2 were particularly good games, and a lot of the other games you compare them to what was coming out at the same time, and I don't know that they hold up as well either. Like I think
No,
Outlaws is probably the worst of the modern slate, but I don't think it's bad
I
either.
think Battlefront 1 is maybe worse, but
Yeah.
that game had like
I don't think I ever actually played New Battlefront 1, so
it had like no content,
that was
no
what,
campaign mode.
2014, 2016? It was pretty early.
Um,
Because Battlefront
was
2
it?
was 2017.
Yeah, it must have been 2014. It was early because it was. I remember the trailer was extremely exciting.
That was in my Star Wars break, so
2015.
2015. All right, yeah.
They did do
But
that really cool thing in the game where I guess you haven't played it, but some of the maps have like big skyboxes,
yeah.
and depending on how the game is going for either Empire or Rebels, there will be like really cool effects. Like on Jakku, if the Rebels are winning, the Ravager crashes down in the
Mhm.
background, and it's unreal. On what's the map? Uh, there's another map where an executor takes off from the planet's surface and flies away, and it takes like 20 minutes. It's really cool. Um,
I've watched those videos because we were using them as references for like death clones in Tron's Revenge.
mm,
So I've seen that, but I think one of the biggest things is that there was just so many more video games
yeah,
in like 2000 to 2010 that
yeah,
even if some of the worst ones did exist, there was like 3 a year some years. So even if some were kind of shovelware and just like cash grab on licensed material, there were more that would stand out. But because like now
yeah,
we have
totally.
this. The last one that came out was Jedi Survivor a year ago, and that's really the shortest gap we've had
Mhm.
in games in a while, right? Like I guess Squadrons was what, 4 years ago now, 3 years ago,
Three, I think.
and then it was another year or two before that for Fallen Order. I guess they were fairly close together, but we haven't really had any good clusters of games. You kind of have one
Yeah,
choice at any time.
like I'm treating this like the what the games might look like. Like if we're getting one or two games a year, then one that's not a masterpiece, like you could argue Jedi Fallen Order is, I think is okay. Um, like if you mix this game up with, uh,
Like
you
a
know,
Star Wars.
Lego Star Wars, yeah, that was a good game. Um,
I
and
guess
I think
that
you're
one came out in
talking.
the right time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're in a different era now where if an EA game does poorly or did poorly in the past decade, well, good fucking luck. You'll be waiting. Now, obviously, EA has multiple studios, but generally they only had one studio working on a game at one time. So if that game did poorly, like if Jedi Fallen Order would have been bad, then we would have been waiting until Squadrons, and maybe there wouldn't have been a Jedi Survivor, and
Maybe there wouldn't have been a
that's rough.
Squadrons at that point. Like if Jedi Fallen Order didn't
Possible.
do well, but
Mhm.
yeah.
So if hopefully within in 5 years from now, when we're in our mid to late 30s, we will be getting all like multiple studios pumping at once, making multiple games, and that'll be a good place to be.
Yeah, like I think the plan that they talked about was having like one AAA and a AA every year, and I think that would
Mhm.
be great. I'd love that.
That would
And
be awesome. Yeah.
there were definitely enough games that were in development or that had been announced that like that seemed like it would be possible. But like with the KOTOR remake having problems because of Embracer sucking and Aspire sucking, and with like Eclipse being some kind of like investment scam that may or may not ever actually exist, like that leads to a gap. Because
Yeah.
you don't want to oversaturate it. That's certainly true, and like you want to get the right studios, but in some cases those turned out to not be the right studios already. So
Yeah. And the benefit of the oversaturation when it comes to video games is not every game is going to be a shooter.
yeah,
So like it's not going to be 16 Battlefront games. Although I know there's some people who would prefer that. So you're getting vastly different experiences where I guess you could say the same for a TV show, but really I think there's only really so much you can do. So
yeah, even with different genres, like they want to get the Star Wars audience if they're going to have a really successful TV show. Whereas, yeah, the people who might come in for games, you don't have quite the same requirements for that. But maybe someday we'll get an actual Star Wars strategy game, maybe, and then I'll be on top for a week. But
yeah.
like, when was Outlaws announced? Was that 2 years ago? Was it? I guess Ubisoft Massive having a project was the first thing announced with the EA exclusivity uh getting dropped, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page now. So much nonsense in this.
The Wikipedia
Initial
page for
announcement
Star Wars games or on
January
Outlaws?
2021. January 2021.
Okay.
So we're 3 years
3 years
ago.
out? 3.5?
Yeah.
Almost 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Whether there would have been, you know, I'm not saying there's no indication either that the next Star Wars game will be announced that way because it was sort of a unique situation where they were moving away from the EA exclusivity.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm looking at the scores here, and like I understand a lot of these scores. PC games and 5 out of 10. I could understand giving this game a 5 out of 10. Game Revolution 8 out of 10. Sure.
I think 5's a bit low.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm also like a almost exclusively Star Wars gamer in the last little while, so
If you're not a Star Wars fan and you're just playing this,
that's the thing.
I could see a 5 or lower.
Yeah, without the Star Wars appeal, I don't know that this gets.
I will say I watched a presentation by Ubisoft about how hard they worked on the cutscenes and stuff, and I was not impressed seeing the final. Like I didn't think they were bad, but they talked about kind of how they studied the original films to try to make the camera look the same, and like how advanced the storyboarding was and the motion capture, and I thought it looked fine, but
I don't know. I don't agree with you because like after playing this game, I went back and watched A New Hope, and I really loved in the scene where like Vader kills Obi-Wan, how the LOD kept flickering on Obi-Wan between his high and low poly model every 3 seconds. And that about Outlaws really brought me in. Actually, I had a really so my performance in Jedi Survivor was never really as bad as other people's was when that was a big issue.
Mine was horrific.
Other than like streaming, it got kind of wonky. I had that problem with Jedi Fallen Order as well, where like the OBS wouldn't pick it up properly. But in Outlaws, when I finished my last stream of it, like I was coming off of the space station, I landed, and when I got out of my ship onto the landing zone into Shara, it just fucking everything lagged to shit, and it would not fix itself. I fast traveled to try to get into the city to see if that would help. But as soon as I started like running, it might be because I turned recording back on, and maybe there was an issue with like my video card there. But like there's something going on there that it needs some performance fixes.
Yeah, I played. I don't know if this was because I hadn't turned off my computer for a while, but I started playing the review copy, and 5 minutes in, my entire computer not just crashed, but I think overheated and turned off. And I was like, oh shit. And I checked the temps on my CPU and they were pretty high. Or I forget if it was a CPU or a GPU. But that was a very concerning sign. Other than that, though, I thought things were generally pretty okay. I had to turn my quality down for streaming. Recording, I thought, worked really well. I was recording on all on high, but streaming I had to turn down to medium just to get it running really smooth. I will say I appreciate that the game is only 50 gigabytes. I appreciate that it's got such a good photo mode and such good accessibility in video settings, even though technically a lot of them are over my head. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on the game, I think.
Yeah, I do think it's a bit weird that some of the NPCs in the background have like a generic human torso with a Mon Calamari head on it, so that the hands are human, and it's very off-putting. But other than that, yeah, photo mode was nice. I got some nice screenshots in space. There were a couple times where I was just like in the middle of something, and then I thought, oh, this might look good as a screenshot, and then just stopped everything so I could rotate around and get a screenshot, which I'd never really done that in any other game other than like maybe Empire at War, purely for utilitarian purposes. So like there's a lot of cool stuff that's going on like that where I felt
some cool ships too. We had Arc 200.
180? Is it 200?
Wasn't it? Yeah, I think it's 200.
Okay. There's the Junker, I think, which had some R41 to it.
Yeah, it had a lot of R41. I was kind of wondering whether there's one that looks kind of like a Y-wing as well. In the BFF, or the VFF, I mean, is in it. The freighter, which is always nice. And yeah, just overall, the ship stuff was good. It felt like it was made by someone who definitely likes ship stuff.
So if we were to apply our book rating to this, if we were to do our F tier to S tier, where would this land for you?
I think it's got to be a C.
C? Yeah. I think probably B for me. Okay. Maybe high C, low B. That's kind of where it is. Like, again, I think you're right. Like, if you're not interested in Star Wars, this game is probably worse than other options for exploration for you.
Yeah, not just I wouldn't even say get it later. I'd probably just skip it.
Yeah, but since you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a Star Wars fan. If you play this, you'll probably enjoy it. If you don't play this, you'll probably never hear about something that makes you go, oh shit, I wish I'd played that because I missed something really cool. But, like, yeah.
Zack is fun.
Once it's on sale, I think that'll be, like, if you're on the fence about it and it looks like something you might enjoy, you will probably enjoy it at least a bit. Buy it on sale if you're okay waiting. I think that's probably what I'd say.
I will say the sound effects are phenomenal in the game. The sound design generally and the music is really good. So if you're into that, if you're into like Star Wars sounds and visuals, then pick it up.
Yeah.
You know, I really enjoyed. I like Tatooine. It was pretty cool. That was the planet that felt the best portrayed to me. I was kind of disappointed by Akiva because it didn't match at all. I would say that they took nothing from the book in how Akiva was portrayed, but I got to reread that again. So
I've only been on Tashara or Cantonica and Tashara so far, so there's a lot of exploring that I'm still looking forward to do. I'm still not 100% sure on all the planets in the game, so
I can tell you if you want.
No.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything really surprising that we didn't talk about before, though. So what, like 5 planets?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Go ahead. Tell me. Spoil
Tatooine, Tashara, Cantonica, which is pretty much linear from what I remember. Akiva, the one from Aftermath, and the one from The Rise of Skywalker.
Kijimi, the name I got wrong?
Yeah. Kijimi, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool planet. And then there's like space stations and stuff as well.
Are the environments like significantly different? Like, do you actually feel like the planets feel different to explore, or is it just like slight skin difference?
Yeah, like Tatooine, for example, is really, really large, but pretty flat as well.
Understandable.
And like there's wide sections, including one that you just a hint you might want to sand dance across. I don't know if you're getting what I'm putting down there.
Okay.
But yeah, like you can go to the Skywalker residence, I believe, or not.
Where do you get
Skywalker.
the lizards to go up your nose?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Damn
I also
it.
didn't see Tatooine. I thought could have been better because like you have Mos Eisley is obviously the hub city, and obviously it's everything. You gotta land in docking bay 94. It's got to be 94, even though presumably there's at least 90 other docking bays. You got to go to Chalim's Cantina, even though Chalim's not there. He's on vacation. And you can
But to be
visit.
fair, do you think there are that many more? Never mind. I'm from Chippewa. There's like 40 other cantinas. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, that was very stupid for me to say.
But like I would have liked to, and maybe I didn't see it, but I would have liked to go to like what's it called? In Anchorage or any of the other kind of places from Tatooine lore. Even I thought that they were going to introduce the what's his name from the Mandalorian, but then I remembered I'm pretty sure he takes power after the fall of the Empire.
With the Oliphant?
Yeah. Because that would have been a second Aftermath connection, which would have been a lot for one game.
Eva and Cobb Vanth?
Yeah.
Maybe there's like a corn on the cob somewhere. That's enough.
Could be.
I don't know if corn is canon. There's a lot of bathrooms in the game, which you don't see too often with Star Wars, so they're really...
Well, there's corn on the cob in the game, so...
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh,
one of the things you eat on Tashara, actually. It's like... Yeah, have you done any of those yet? I sent that to you, remember?
Yeah, you sent well, hold on. As your lawyer, I need to step in here. But yeah, I don't know. Food, Ilkin always gets mad at me for this, but food doesn't interest me in that way. So
how can you not feel romantic about baseball? I mean, food.
4-minute cutscene of eating. I don't understand.
It was really long, and there's like 4 of them at least.
You can take 2 of those scenes, and that's B-roll for a whole lore video. Insane.
Yep. I thought it was charming, I gotta say.
It has to be the thing that on the podcast I have been most negative about that you liked. So
yeah, in history.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about with Outlaws at this point?
Nope, that's it for me.
All right. Thank you for listening, everyone. Hope you have enjoyed our discussion of Acolyte ending and Outlaws beginning. Next week, are we...
Probably do the book?
You're going to be good for Refugee?
Should be. Yeah, I think so.
All right. We'll be doing...
Why, do I have something on my schedule that that I don't?
No, reading the book is just sometimes a challenge when there's only a week of notice.
Yeah, I think I can manage.
You have already read a third of it, which does help.
Yeah, and I was doing my Southern Reach reread for a video, and I finished that yesterday.
So I'm gone the final week of September. It would be nice.
Where are you going again?
Classified. Okay. But it would be nice if we could get Refugee and Reunion done. Not New Jedi Order. There's like 4 books left, and they're all very long. But if we can get the Force Heretic trilogy done, so next week is going to be the 1st, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, next week will be the 1st, and then one of the next 3 or 4, whatever that is, Sundays.
Wait, next week will be the what? You mean next week will be book 2? Yeah, it's a 5th.
Yeah, it'll be book 2, and then we have like 2 further weeks. So if we can get 2 weeks later, the 3rd book done, that would be great.
Okay, we'll try.
All right, so we'll definitely be doing Refugee next week, and hopefully 2 weeks after that, we're doing Reunion. Mm-hmm. Hopefully.
Yep.
That's the plan. Thank you for listening, though, everyone. We'll be live on X2 in about 15 minutes-ish. Allegedly. Maybe 45. You never know. Just there... If
hopefully
it says...
soon, because it's already... It's late.
Okay.
I put this up early.
Bye, everyone.
I do got to go get some mixer. Bye-bye.
Bye. Any fucking...